Hello and welcome back to the channel for another Doctor Who video. Today we're going to be talking about the brand new Doctor Who spin-off, Doctor Who Redacted, which you may or may not be aware of because it hasn't exactly had the most exposure, and it is also brand new. It's only just getting going really. It's going to run for 10 weeks. The first 2 episodes are out at the time of recording, and also another reason why you might not have heard of it or might not have gone onto your radar is that it's an audio drama podcast thing. It's not a TV thing or anything like that. So it is a spin-off, but it's a different type of spin-off, more akin to like Dreamland or something like that from the David Tennant days. So anyway, yeah, Doctor Who Redacted, it's not something which has got a massive amount of exposure, like I say, but I think that, that's unfairly so, because I think it is really decent so far, and so I did want to just, give it a bit of promo and talk about it a bit and sort of share my thoughts on what we've got so far from these first 2 episodes, and hopefully encourage people that maybe haven't listened to it yet or weren't aware of it to go and give it a go, because it is free, it's online on BBC Sounds and it's really good, so you've got no reason to not give it a go. So what's the deal with Doctor Who Redacted? What's it all about? Well, the story follows 3 young women who are all university dropouts. They shared accommodation in their first year and then they dropped out of university. They are Shauna, Abby and Cleo, I believe the names are, and they live in Glasgow, Sheffield and London respectively, I think. And the story is told in this podcast format. Now, podcasts, when I say the word podcast, you might think of a more sort of like non-fictional thing, like a discussion or whatever, a bit like what I'm doing here. But there has been this boom in recent years, as I understand, of sort of stories being told in the podcast form. So you get a little slice of story each week, just like 10 minutes, 20 minutes or whatever, and then it builds to sort of a cohesive whole. So that is sort of very much the context of what this has been put into. And Doctor Who Redacted is a perfect sort of concept for that format, because these 3 characters, Shauna, Abby and Cleo, do actually have a podcast of their own in the story. So it is very much at times, and particularly in the first episode near the start, it's very much like you are actually just listening to their podcast, like it's actually a real life thing. It does sort of blur the boundary between, real life and fiction there, which I think is really cool. So this podcast is called The Blue Box Files, and it's basically like a sort of conspiracy type podcast where these 3 characters sort of follow these sightings of, police public call boxes across the UK, across history, all sorts of things, dredging up things from the past. The quite nice thing about this actually is that it enables us to go back to old Doctor Who stories and sort of have little tie-ins and references there. So in the first 2 episodes we get 2 references to 2 separate RTD era stories, so Partners in Crime and with Adipose Industries sort of getting a mention there, and then Smith and Jones with the whole thing with the Jadoon in the hospital going missing. So again, it's a really nice way of sort of building on previous stories and making this feel like it's part of the Doctor Who universe, really. It very much does feel like that. But at the same time, it's not sort of relying heavily on those past stories as the basis for this new story. It's not like they're trying to suggest that the Adipose and the Jadoon were in league with each other or something in some massive, great big conspiracy, or, I don't know, the reason the hospital went to the moon was because of the Daleks and the Cybermen and all this sort of stuff. It's not like they're trying to make one massive big conspiracy out of all these previous Earth-based invasions and stories and things. It is just more of a case of them being springboards for these 3 characters to gradually sort of immerse themselves into this world of the Doctor and of Doctor Who, and they're sort of on the cusp of learning a bit more about what it's all about, but they are still at the stage very much where the Doctor is something which they're sort of vaguely aware of, but it's not something they've sort of come to properly put their finger on yet. And the same with the TARDIS as well. They do follow these sightings of the TARDIS, but they don't use the word TARDIS, they don't recognise it as a TARDIS or even a time travel spaceship or anything. It is very much just more a conspiracy and sort of playing with these possibilities about what it's all about. It's like one character in particular is very sceptical about anything to do with aliens and space and time and everything, whereas other characters are a bit more up for all that sort of stuff. So it's a very interesting premise in that regard, and like I say, it does at times very much feel like you are literally listening to this podcast, which is literally, a real life thing, which is really great and just really suits the format so well, because there have been examples of, you know, Doctor Who audio drama or radio drama in the past. I mean, most notably the company Big Finish, who produce a whole load of spin-offs and Doctor Who stories and all sorts of things, everything you can possibly imagine. And a Big Finish is something which I have sort of dipped my toe in the water with in the past. It's not something I'm sort of massively invested in these days. But with this, you know, I think even as someone who hadn't listened to a lot of Doctor Who audio drama or just audio drama in general in recent years, it was actually really refreshing and really accessible and really easy to get into. Very bite-sized length episodes, it's sort of 20 minutes per episode. It's very easy to just, you know, drop in and give it a go and see what you think of it. And the whole sort of vibe of the series is really great as well. We've seen loads of people talking about this, how these three, you know, main characters are a lot like them, or people they know, or people they've talked to in the past. Because, you know, it is different, you know, for Doctor Who to have something which has, you know, three, you know, female leads in it, and it's sort of shining a light on fandom, I suppose, a side of fandom which hasn't previously had this sort of exposure in the past. And they've got queer characters as well, and one trans character as well, so it is very much uncharted territory for Doctor Who. It's sort of hard to describe unless you've actually sort of listened to it yourself, but there is a really unique and really refreshing sort of tone to the whole thing, in terms of the dialogue, in terms of the way these characters speak and interact with each other, and just the sort of sassiness, I guess, and the sort of vibe of the whole thing. You know, it does give it a very different tone and vibe to, say, you know, something made in the 70s, for instance, about 70s Doctor Who fans. Like, you know, if this was made in the 70s, you might have like 3 male Doctor Who fans, and it might be a much sort of drier setup. Whereas with these 3 characters, you do get that sass, you do get that energy, and just that sort of larger than life sort of vibe to the whole thing, and it does really bring it to life, makes it great fun to listen to. You know, these 3 characters really are people that, you know, you'd want to be friends with or want to hang out with. So I think that's really great, really great. And yeah, overall, I would really encourage people to give this a listen if they haven't yet tried it out. Because like I say, I mean, it's a funny one, because the whole sort of concept behind the series is that the Doctor is sort of being erased or redacted from time and space in the universe, and not a similar sort of concept to the Flux, actually, from the TV series, where all these sort of traces of the Doctor are being corrupted or disappearing or being turned into weapons and things and dangerous stuff. But yeah, it's quite ironic, because I feel like in certain quarters of Doctor Who fandom, this is going unnoticed in a totally similar sort of way, which is a real shame, because it's really good. So yeah, if you are on the fence or hadn't even heard of this, you know, please do give it a go. It's really great stuff. Very easy to dip into, like I say, 20-minute episodes, and there are 10 of them in total. The first 2 are out, so the third one is out this Sunday. And yeah, you will have a really great time with it, I promise you. It's really great fun, and just a really great, you know, it's really great to have a Doctor Who spin-off again, you know, just in any medium. You know, people might say, why haven't we got this on TV or whatever, or similar sort of thing on TV? But actually, you know, like I say, this works really well for audio. It's very sort of tailor-made to that form and that medium, so it works tremendously well. And yeah, I've got nothing but positive things to say about it, really. So that is my initial thoughts on the first 2 episodes of Doctor Who Redacted. I'll probably cover the whole series or subsequent episodes or whatever in future videos, or maybe like some big roundup video, possibly a discussion with Miles or something in the future once it's all wrapped up. That might be quite cool to do. So yeah, look out for that at some point in the future. Please give the video a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you want to go one step further, the link to my Patreon page is in the description below. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye for now.